Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me. In this session, we are going to be covering MyHeritage Library Edition. My name is Jay Yurtdakul and I am a training specialist in EBSCO, and I'm going to be going through this session with you today. So by the end of the session, participants will be able to describe key features in MyHeritage Library Edition, browse the categories within the interface, construct basic and advanced searches, refine and view results, access detailed records, including family trees, and find relevant help and support materials. So what is MyHeritage Library Edition? Well, it's a family history resource that is used by millions worldwide. It can be accessed remotely from the comfort of home or the physical library environment. It helps individuals make incredible discoveries about their family history through its large and diverse historical record collection and its easy to use search tools. So you'll find more than 9 billion historical records from all over the world, as well as more than 3 billion exclusive family tree profiles from MyHeritage and Genie. Beyond that, you've got a lot of different collections available, and records come from census and voter lists. So these include Australia, New Zealand electoral rolls, birth, marriage and death records, military documents, passenger lists and immigration records. And there are also Australian newspapers included that date between 1803, so the beginning of the 19th century all the way through to the mid-20th century. In addition, you've got tombstone photos and historical photographs. There are directories, references and handbooks, biographies and histories of a location and its people. You've got court and government documentation, and then there's additional content under license. Subscribers of MyHeritage Library Edition can access usage statistics. So you can get those sent out automatically once a month, or you could ask for that on demand as well. Now, to get these statistics, you can reach out to EBSCO support and they can arrange for you to have those generated and harvested on your behalf and sent out. Okay, so without further ado, let's have a look at the live environment in some more detail. So I'm going to switch across to my web browser. And as you can see, at the starting point, we have the home screen. So from the home page, you can actually access the basic search form. And you can also switch across to the advanced search to access some additional features. In addition to this, you've got your category browse options. There are 14 categories available, and under each category are subcategories. So you can quickly jump to pre-featured topics from the home screen, or you can click on more to view even more topics available under that category. In addition, as we scroll down, you have the world map tool that allows you to search records by location. So I can hover across different continents and regions of this map, and I could click into that region and then search exclusively through that region. The first thing I really want to cover is the browsing by category option available. As mentioned, I could launch into one of these topics or click more, or I could browse the entirety of the collection catalogue. So I might just do that. And so once I'm in the collection catalogue, I can see here all the collections available and the total number of records included. And I could browse completely across all of them. And I have different ways to sort through these collections. I can sort by number of records last updated or alphabetical by the collection name. And I can see information at a glance, such as what is the collection's name. And if I hover over, it gives me a bit of a summary of what's included in that collection. I can see when the collection was last updated and the total number of records here available. Now, to my left, I've got the ability to search for a specific collection or by keyword. So for example, if I type in birth, it will narrow down to collections that are relevant to birth in some way or another. So I'll exit out of that and go back to my previous parameters. On the left-hand menu, aside from the ability to search for a specific collection or by keyword, I can also browse through, and if I wanted to, I could narrow down to a particular collection. So if I wanted to narrow down to censor and voter lists, I can just click on that and I can see all the censor and voter lists available. So at a glance, I see there's the Australian electoral rolls that I could click into, or I could refine by location. So if I'm interested in electoral census and voter lists from the region of Oceania, I could click into that and it will narrow down for me. It does allow me to refine further. So I do have the ability to narrow down to Australia or to New Zealand. And I also have the ability to refine by years. So I've got different coverages here. So coverage in the 19th century and in the 20th century. Another thing I can do is I could also narrow down to collections with images. So there's 2 collections here that contain images. I could narrow down the focus to that. Another way I could filter this list is I could search again across all collections, but this time I'll narrow down to Oceania and it shows me all relevant collections that contain records from Oceania, from the region. And again, I could refine that further. And I could also refine that by years as well and by collections with images. And so when I want to click on a specific collection, I can just click on it and then I can start to run my search exclusively within this collection. I can also browse a sample record that's available, and I can also easily jump into related content, and I can also see what categories this falls under and jump into those categories once more. So I'm going to go back to my basic search. Maybe you want to do a general search for a particular name, a particular person that searches across all historical records. And so I'm going to go through an example of that now. So let's say I've got a person, their name is Lila Emily James. So the first and middle names I can enter in the first section of the form, and then I can follow that with their last name. And I can type in their year of birth. Now, if I didn't know the precise year of birth, I could instead calculate it, and I could say what age they were approximately in what year, and it would calculate a rough year of their birth for me. But I've got a year of birth here, so I'll just supply that. I know that they're from New Zealand, so I'll just type in that. You could get more specific if you wished. So you could go to a particular district or suburb of the country if you wanted to. It doesn't have to be a place of birth. It could be place of birth or resident or other. And you could also supply some keywords. So if you knew what their occupation was, or if you knew how they arrived in the country, like information about what boat they were on, perhaps when they immigrated, you could add those keywords in. I could also jump in the advanced search. And when I do, you can see that it does carry across the fields that I've already supplied from the basic search. But in addition, it gives me some extra fields that I can enter. So I already mentioned their date of birth, but you can see if I wanted to, I could supply a day and a month, and I could say to match that flexibly, and I could also have a place where they were born. Now I could add another event. So if I knew the date of the person's death, for example, so under the drop down, you see the options for birth, death, marriage, residence, immigration, and military. So I'm going to select death. And again, I can put in a year there. So I know that that was the year that they passed away. And if I knew what cemetery they're located at or where they passed away, I could add that information. Now, another breakdown here I've got is the relatives. So from here, I can determine whether I know the name of the father, mother, spouse, child, or a sibling. So in this case, I've got information of their spouse. So I'm going to type that information in. So their spouse is George Kenneth James. And so with the information I've supplied, I'll now run a search. So in my results list, because I've searched across all collections, it's going to pull a diverse range of information for me. And you can see the breakdown to the left. So I've got content coming from census and voter lists, family trees, births, marriage and death, and so on. And I can see how many number of records pertain to each collection as well at a glance. Now, at this point, if I have further detail I want to add to make the search more precise, I do have the ability to go back and edit the search at any point if I wish, or I can go back to the results. And I also have the ability to refine my search. So I could refine by first name, last name, birth year, and so on. From here, I can look at my total number of results, or I can click over to the tab for summary. And in the summary tab, it actually shows me a breakdown through collection. And I could jump into the results that match a specific collection. From my results, I then have the ability to click on a record. But before I do, the brief record available does give you a snapshot of that person and of that record. So at a glance, you can tell this is a MyHeritage family tree. So it has come and been exported directly from the consumer edition of MyHeritage, where people can set up personal accounts and upload family tree information. And you can see at a glance who manages the family tree and on what website. So you do have some information about the person that does run that family tree website. So that's the case when it's a MyHeritage family tree in particular, because it's coming from that content that's exclusive to MyHeritage. So from here, we can click on a record to get the full information, such as birth, marriage, residence. There's also probate, so information about the will and the death. And you can see here what region, geographic region they're from as well. So the place of death, birth, residence, and so on. You get the breakdown of the family tree. So you can see that a lot of this information is hyperlinked. For example, I can go to a father's family tree record and then piece together the information from there. And I can trace back to his parents and his wife and his siblings if I want to get an expansive picture of their family. In addition, I have other features available to me as well. So again, I mentioned I do have the source of the family tree. I've also got the ability to cite the record. So if I do have my own genealogy software, my own blog or website for my family history, I might want to grab the citation and the source. And so I've got all the adequate information I need to export outwards. I've also got the print option available as well. So this gives me the ability to print out to a printer if I have one connected, or I can print out to PDF. So it gives me that full record that I can keep locally. The record detective utilizes MyHeritage technologies to automatically find other records for you. Once you landed on one record, the record detective results will show you additional relevant records for that person or related individuals. So you can see other records. So another family tree, this one from Family Search. You can see the New Zealand Index of Burials, her father again, and so on. So we can scroll through those relevant records and click on those to leap into those records as well. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the main page. This time I want to show you how I would search by location. So I did mention if I scroll down, I've got the ability to search records by location. And I'm going to go hover over to the region of Oceania on this map. It's a very dynamic map, you can see. And so from here, I have a further breakdown available. So I can search within a state or territory within Australia, and I can search for neighbouring countries as well, including New Zealand. So let's say I'm looking for Melbourne, Victoria. So I'll click on Victoria, and as you can see, it's already populated Victoria as a place. So it's automatically going to narrow down to Victoria. Now, in addition to this, I could either use my basic search or advanced search form, and I'm currently on the advanced search form, or I can jump to collections that are specific to Victoria from here as well. And I could launch into those collections. But I'm going to actually use the search form again. This time I'm searching for Lenora Gribble Edwards. And I know that they were born in 1874. So I'm going to add that information in, and then their date of passing as well, 1918. And then I'm going to run my search. And so again, from here, I can see content regarding this person, and I can start to go through those results. The next thing I want to show is what if I browse by collection? Let's say I want to jump into one of these specific categories. So I'm going to go through the list here. And what I want to go through is the census and voter lists. And I'm going to click on more to see further topics available. And you can see the breakdown here. I'm going to keep scrolling through. I've also got Australian electoral rolls, and I've got more choices under other. So if I click on other and then more, I've got here the option for New Zealand electoral roll. So I'm just going to select that one. And again, I have the ability to fill out the form and search using these parameters. So I'm going to search for a person named Mary Keenan. And I know a year of residence was 1925. Now you'll notice as well that depending on what kind of collection I'm searching within, that some of the options will change. Now, because this is an electoral roll, what it's asking for is the year of residence because that's the information that's recorded in this collection. So you'll notice sometimes the parameters do change depending on the collection and what's needed. Okay, so I know that they resided in Tauranga in 1925, and I'll run a search. And then you can see here that the residence is 1925, and I can click on that to get further information that I need, occupation, marriage status, and what electorate they were in that year. So those were the general searches I wanted to run with you. And I do encourage you to come back in, really have a look and browse through these sections, see what you find. Okay, so to wrap up, I did also just want to mention that there's a lot of great help resources available for MyHeritage. So this is on our EBSCO Connect website. So you can actually access EBSCO Connect from connect.ebsco.com. And so there's the FAQs that are available. There's also a promotion kit. And I also like to point out there's ideas for expanding your library's genealogy program. I think this one in particular is a great resource, especially if you're thinking about what kind of ideas and tips you want to integrate. So what if you want to create some seminars for your patrons, or you're working with genealogy clubs, or you've got some genealogy society members that you want to bring along to the library, and how you might want to incorporate MyHeritage into that as well. So some really good ideas that you could use here and link it back to the database. And I also want to point out there's a MyHeritage blog, and often they do also talk about some inspiring projects and activities that have been run across libraries and how you might want to integrate that. There's a family tree builder that your users could download for free if they were to. You can access MyHeritage webinars. So they do run free public webinars as well that you can attend and enroll in, and encourage your users to enroll in as well. So if you want to find out some of their webinars that they run, you definitely can take advantage of that. So I guess we might wrap up there then. So thank you again for attending, and do reach out if you have any further additional questions about MyHeritage. So bye for now.